Welcome to Man in Progress, Forging Manhood. I'm Travis Murray, values coach and your guide to building a life driven by real values. Each week we explore what it means to be a man today, talk about and to thinkers and doers who've been through it, and give you steps to show up better for yourself and those you love. If you're ready to forge your own path, you're in the right place. Let's get to it. The weight of giving up. Sacrifice is a word we toss around as if it were light. We tell ourselves we would sacrifice for love, for honor, for our families. But sacrifice, real sacrifice, weighs more than we imagine. It is a heavy bar of iron that you hold over the fire until it glows. It burns your hands. It changes shape only when you hammer it, and the shape it takes is not always what you expected. Today, we are not talking about abstract ideals or heroic myths. We are talking about the moments when ordinary people gave up something they could have kept. They chose a loss in the short term to gain something more lasting. They took the comfortable life they had and put it back in the fire because another life needed heat. Sacrifice is not just about losing. It is about shaping what you value most. It is discipline over ease, love over applause, integrity over self-preservation. It is a value you build like muscle by using it. How do you build sacrifice? You start small. You give up an evening of television to talk with your child. You skip the promotion to stay present. You invest your skills in a cause that may never pay you back. These small, repeated actions harden into a way of being. They prepare you for the moment when the stakes rise. Today, we will meet 4 people who chose to sacrifice when the stakes were high. One gave up the stage for the sound of his child's laughter. Another broke the rules to hold up his son who was injured. A third sold his wealth to rescue children he had never met. A fourth turned his career upside down to save his own children from an incurable disease. Each story reveals a facet of sacrifice and invites us to examine our own, carried by love. Picture the humid air of Barcelona in the summer of 1992. The Olympic Stadium is a cauldron of noise. Sprinters crouch on the starting blocks, eyes on the finish line. One of them is Derek Redmond, a British athlete who has battled injury after injury. He has broken his country's 400-meter record, reclaimed it again, and helped his team win gold at the World Championships. He has undergone 8 operations, but keeps returning to the track. This is his chance to finally prove himself. The gun fires. Derek explodes off the blocks. At 250 meters, he feels a snap like a whip. His hamstring was torn. Pain sears through his leg. He collapses, face pressed to the red track. Medics rush toward him with a stretcher. Cameras zoom in. The crowd murmurs and goes silent. Derek waves off the stretcher. He pushes himself to his feet and begins to hop on one leg. He is no longer racing the other athletes. He is racing his own pain and disappointment. It is raw, awkward, and heartbreaking. In the stands, his father, Jim, is watching. Jim has been by his son's side since Derek was a boy. He has driven him to early morning practices, sat with him through surgeries, listened when he wanted to quit. When he sees his son hobbling along, alone, something ancient takes over. He jumps the fence. Officials try to stop him. They were not able to. All he's thinking about isn't rules and cameras. Jim is thinking about his child. He pushes past security. He wraps his arms around his son. Derek is sobbing and says, "I have to finish." Jim whispers, "Then we'll finish together." They walk, father and son, leaning on each other. The crowd of 65,000 people stand and roar. Officials later disqualify Derek for receiving assistance. The record books mark him down as did not finish. But anyone who watched that moment knows he finished the race that mattered. Jim did not worry about the rules or legal ramifications. He did not worry about appearances. His moral compass told him to help his son stand. Sacrifice here is not about endurance. It is about disregarding status to honor relationship. Jim traded obedience for compassion. Derek traded pride for vulnerability. Together, they embodied the truth that the finish line is not always a ribbon. Sometimes it is the act of refusing to leave someone alone in pain. Here's some reflection. Who around you is limping toward a finish line? How often do we stay in our seats, afraid of breaking protocol or being judged? Building sacrifice means letting go of our fear of what others think. It means letting our compassion overrule our comfort. This week, look for someone who needs support. Show up even if it's messy. Step onto their track. You may not get a medal, but you will have lived the value of sacrifice. The spotlight that went dark. Imagine a time when Rick Moranis' face was everywhere. In the 1980s and early 90s, he was Hollywood's favorite quirky dad. He moved from Canadian radio and the sketch show Second City Television to blockbuster comedies like Ghostbusters and Little Shop of Horrors. He had a gift for improvisation. Directors often let him rewrite scenes to make them funnier. By 1990, he was in constant demand and could have filled every calendar with new projects. Then, life intervened. In 1991, his wife Anne died of cancer, leaving Rick with 2 young children. Suddenly, the red carpets and talk shows seemed trivial. He faced a choice between continuing to chase fame and staying home to be the stabilizing force his children needed. He chose the latter. He finished existing commitments, including the direct-to-video sequel, Honey, We Shrunk Ourselves, and then stepped away. Years later, he explained that he had taken a little bit of a break, but that break stretched into decades because he found he did not miss the industry. To many, it looked like he retired. In reality, he shifted his energy. He became the man at the school gate instead of the one on the movie set. He read bedtime stories instead of scripts. He recorded the occasional voiceover, but never returned to the relentless pace of live action. Sacrifice here meant giving up the applause, the money, and the prestige for the sake of presence. It is one thing to say family comes first. It is another to step away from a world that feeds your ego, to make sure your children feel safe. Rick's sacrifice was a long, quiet act rather than a single dramatic gesture. He resisted the lure of another lead role. He allowed the public to forget him. In doing so, he showed that sacrifice is not always recognized or rewarded. Sometimes, it is invisible. He missed being a part of a creative community, but he did not miss the industry's demands. His choice reminds us that success measured by others can come at the cost of success defined by other people who know you best. Reflection. What applause are you chasing? Are you pursuing achievements that matter to you or to others? Building sacrifice means identifying what you need to let go of so you can hold something more important. It means choosing presence over performance. This week, take inventory of your commitments. Are there tasks or opportunities you're saying yes because they feed your ego? Practice saying no. Use the time you free up to invest in a relationship. Sacrifice when done for love doesn't feel like a loss. It feels like choosing life. Father to the fatherless. Charles Mully knows what it feels like to be abandoned. He was born in rural Kenya and left by his family when he was 6 years old. He survived by begging on the streets, sleeping in bus stations, and stealing food. Eventually, he found odd jobs and saved enough to start a taxi business. Over decades, he turned one car into a fleet, built a transportation empire, and became a multi-millionaire. He married his wife Esther, had 8 biological children, and moved into a spacious home by the early 1990s. He had everything he could have dreamed of as a starving child on the street. Then one day, a group of street children begged him for money. He shooed them away. As he drove off, he felt haunted by their faces. He told Esther he wanted to bring children like them into their home. She thought he was joking. He wasn't. They took in a few youngsters. Word spread, more children arrived. Friends and relatives thought the Mollys had lost their minds. Church leaders cautioned them. Their own children felt like their home was being invaded. Charlie understood he was dismantling the life he had built, but he couldn't ignore the voice telling him his wealth was meant for more than personal comfort. He sold his businesses and poured the proceeds into caring for abandoned children. He built extra rooms on his property. When those filled, he bought land in the semi-arid region of Yada. There, he drilled wells, installed irrigation, and planted orchards. He founded Molly's Children's Family, a community where homeless kids could eat, learn, and heal. Today, the organization has rescued more than 13,000 children. Many of those children grew up to become teachers, farmers, and parents themselves. Charlie's own children eventually joined the mission. His sacrifice cost him status and nearly bankrupted his family. It also brought him joy. He says he did not want to die rich. He wanted to die fulfilled. Sacrifice here is about letting go of financial security to gain a different kind of wealth. It is about redefining success as impact, not accumulation. Charlie did not simply donate money. He invited strangers into his life. He exchanged social approval for smiles of children who had never been hugged. He shows us that the value of sacrifice can reshape a family, a community, even a desert. Reflection. What are you holding on to out of fear? Money is not evil, but when it becomes a shield against discomfort, it can keep us from connecting deeply. Building sacrifice means loosening your grip on resources so they can serve a greater purpose. This week, find a way to share your resources. It might mean donating money, yes, but it could also be offering time, mentorship, or a spare room. Notice how generosity reshapes your sense of security. True wealth is measured not by what you keep, but what you give away with open hands. The chemistry of hope. John Crowley never planned to be a biotech CEO. He studied law at Notre Dame and worked as a consultant and executive. He and his wife, Aileen, were raising their 3 children in 1998 when doctors diagnosed their 15-month-old daughter, Megan, and newborn son, Patrick, with Pompe disease, a rare genetic disorder that eats away muscle cells. Doctors told them there was no treatment. Most children died before their second birthday. John could have accepted that prognosis and made the most of what time he had left. Instead, he turned his life upside down. The Crowleys moved to Princeton to be near specialists. John left his job at a major pharmaceutical company and co-founded a nonprofit to fund Pompe research. He soon realized that sporadic, underfunded studies were not enough, so in 2000 he co-founded Novazeme, a pharmaceuticals. With immunologist William Canfield, he maxed out credit cards, mortgaged his home, and convinced investors to back a startup focused on a disease that affected only a handful of children. When Genzyme acquired Novazeme, John became a senior executive overseeing the development of an enzyme therapy. When it came time to enroll patients, he resigned to ensure his children could participate in the trial. In 2003, Megan and Patrick received the therapy, now known as Lumazyme. Their enlarged hearts shrank and their muscles grew stronger. Megan went on to graduate from college and works for Make-A-Wish. Patrick lives with improved health. John did not stop. He became CEO of Amicus Therapeutics, which develops treatments for other rare diseases. And he serves as president of a biotech trade organization as a naval officer. His story was dramatized in the film Extraordinary Measures, but the real sacrifice was in quiet decisions, walking away from a secure career, risking his finances and professional reputation, and learning enough biochemistry to speak to scientists on their level. Sacrifice here is about applying your skills to the cause, one that may never benefit anyone beyond your family, and then discovering it can. John's actions created a therapy that has saved hundreds of children worldwide. He turned his career into a tool for love. He teaches us that the value of sacrifice is not just about letting go, it is about redirecting what you have for greater use. Reflection. What talents and positions do you hold that could be repurposed for others? Building sacrifice means recognizing that your education, contacts, and experience are not just for your own advancement. They are tools you can use to solve problems that seem impossible. This week, ask yourself, how can I leverage my skills for someone else's good? It might mean mentoring a young person in your field, volunteering your expertise to a nonprofit, or advocating for a family facing a medical crisis. Sacrifice your own comfort zone and watch new possibilities emerge. Holding the heat. 4 stories, 4 different sacrifices. A father who broke the rules to walk with his son. An actor who walked away from fame to be a father. A businessman who sold his empire to save strangers. And a lawyer who became a scientist to save his children. Each chose to give up something valuable: social respect, public applause, financial security, professional stability. Each chose to carry a heavier bar of iron into the fire so that someone else could become strong. Sacrifice is not glamorous. It rarely makes headlines. It can feel like madness to those around you. But if you listen closely to the stories of these men, you'll hear a pattern. Sacrifice frees you. It frees you from the tyranny of ego. It frees you from the illusion that you control everything. It frees you to love without reservation. And it forges bonds that outlast careers, records, and bank accounts. How do you build sacrifice as a value? You practice. You notice where fear of loss keeps you trapped. You test yourself by giving up comforts. You cultivate a posture of openness, open hands, open calendar, open heart. And when the moment comes when someone needs you, your child, your neighbor, your community, you do not hesitate. You jump the railing. You say no to the big promotion. You sign the papers to sell your business. You quit your job to learn a new field. You act, not because it's easy, not because someone's forcing you to do it, but because you know what matters most. As we close, consider this. What are you willing to give up to become the man you are called to be? What weight will you carry into the forge so someone else can stand? You are not broken for choosing to sacrifice. You are being shaped. Allow the heat to do its work. And remember, the hammer is in your hand. Strike with love. This episode is not telling you to quit your job. This episode is not telling you to leave any of your current commitments. This episode is only teaching you what sacrifice means. If that involves any of what I've already spoke about, that's up to you. You make that choice. You do what's right for you, what's right for your family, what's right for your community. That's sacrifice. Now, it doesn't mean, and I'm not telling you again, that quitting your job is going to make all the difference and make a better person out of you. I'm not telling you that learning a new biochemistry is going to help you solve whatever problem you're facing now. I'm just teaching you that sometimes putting down the remote to the TV and hanging out with your child means more to them than you'll ever truly know. Give it a try. And remember, as always, you're not broken. You're not alone. You're not late. You're a man in progress.